Mr. Bowman here. In this video, we are going through our recent test on right angle triangles, Pythagoras Theory, Trigonometry 2021 test. Throughout the test, I'll go through what you needed to do to get each grade. But let's start off with our first question. And our first question asks us to use trigonometry to calculate any unknown side or angle. So first step, when you're doing trigonometry, write down the sides of your triangle, the hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. So right angles over here, opposite to that is the hypotenuse. There's the given angle, which makes that the opposite. There's the adjacent. We don't care about the adjacent, so we're going to be dealing with OH, which is SAW, so sine. Sine angle equals O over H. Sine 60, because that's the angle we're given. The opposite is x, so we'll put that into our equation, divided by 32. We then do a bit of algebra, so x will be equal to 32 times sine 60. That's the opposite of that division. X from that is going to be equal to 27.7 centimeters, and that had a 1 dp rounding. So the units are required. The rounding can differ, and you'd also get full marks if you had different rounding. So the next question, we're trying to find side y over here. So there's the hypotenuse, there's the opposite, there's the adjacent. We don't care about the hypotenuse, which means we're going to be dealing with O and H, which is tan or toa. So tan angle equals O over A. Tan 45, because that's the angle, is equal to y divided by 12. Y will be equal to 12 times tan 45. Y, when that comes out to, that's 12 centimeters, and there was no need to round that question there as well. So awesome, we're now moving on to our next questions. We're trying to find angle, or side P here rather. And again, there's the hypotenuse, there's the opposite, there's the adjacent. We don't care about the opposite. So we've got ka or cosine. So cos angle equals A over H. Cos 43 is equal to 35 divided by P. So there we go, 35 divided by P. We switch those around. P will be equal to 35 divided by cos 43. And when we put that into our calculator, P will be equal to 47.9 centimeters. Meters in that case, and I chose to round that to 1 decimal point. Again, your rounding doesn't matter. And the final question, we're now trying to find out unknown angle. Q, there's the hypotenuse, there's the opposite, there's the adjacent. We don't care about the adjacent, which means we're dealing with sine. So sine angle equals O over H. Sine Q, because Q is the unknown angle, is equal to 13 over 15. Q is equal to sine or inverse sine 13 over 15. Q will be equal to 60 degrees, and I've chosen that to round that to 0 decimal points. So each of those questions was worth an achieved mark, and if you could do that first page right, you got an achieved because you're able to show that basic skill of applying trigonometry and Pythagoras theory. So next question. We've specifically been asked about Pythagoras theory to find out the unknown sides. Instead of going O, A, and H, we're doing A, B, and C, and the C being opposite the right angle. Yeah, so there's the right angle, opposite to that is C. The other two that join together are the A and the B values. It doesn't matter which way around they are, but I called A, just because it makes sense, it's the same letter. So we'll write down our formula. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. A is staying as A squared. B squared is going to be 49, and C squared, 15 squared, 225. A squared is going to be equal to 167. I think it is. Nope, 176. Bad maths. There you go. A is going to be equal to the square root of 176, which means A will be equal to 13.27 meters, and that had a 2 dp rounding. If you got that answer right, you got an achieved mark. We're then moving on to the next question. There's the C, A and B joined together to make the right angle, and we'll start off with our formula, A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So that's going to be 5 squared plus 24 squared will be equal to x squared. X squared is equal to 601. X will be equal to the square root of 601. X would be 24.5 centimeters, and that there rounded to 1 decimal point. If you got that, that there was the 6th and final achieved mark to be awarded throughout the test. So there's the first one. You did need 3 of those 4 to pass overall. More than would have put you up to a higher achieved. So question 3 was about symmetry and triangles in the construction of houses. If you look to replicate the house below, what would the angle between the base and the top of the house be? So that I did intend that to be this angle here, but I do appreciate it was ambiguous. So if you told me about the angle on the top here, I also gave you your mark as well. So I'll run through 2 variations. So we'll call that their angle B, or sorry, angle A and B. Let's work out A first. So if you did calculate angle A, you would have got that. So the height of the triangle was 2.5, and that was told to us over here. And the base of this triangle is half of the overall base, which makes 5 overall. So there's our 5. There's our right angle. We then go ahead. It looks like we're using trigonometry because we're dealing with an angle. We label the sides. So there's the hypotenuse, and we don't care about that. There's the opposite, and there's the adjacent. So we're going to be using tan. So tan angle equals O over A. Tan A, because that's the angle, is equal to 2.5 over 5. A is going to be equal to tan negative 1 of 2.5 over 5. And that meant A came to 26.6 degrees. If you were able to do that, you got a merit mark. And the alternative answer, or if you were calculating angle B for me, angle B would have been up here. That there would have been 2.5. The base still would have been 5. Similar process. There's the hypotenuse, which we don't care about. There's the opposite. There's the adjacent. So we would have been using tan again. So tan angle equals O over A. Tan B is equal to 5 over 2.5. B is equal to inverse tan 5 over 2.5. And then that meant that came to 63.4 degrees. And that, or they both had 1 dp roundings. So again, that was the alternate answer. You would have got merit if you got to that. So well done if you got those ones there. Let's move on to question 4. Question 4 is about door frames, and they're normally constructed with 4 right angles. Mr. Park has just finished one of these at his house, and he wanted to check if the door was constructed with a right angle. And he knows that A to B is 84 centimeters, B to C down the line there is 187 centimeters, and across the face 205. He was looking to check, is the door perfectly constructed? If it is perfectly constructed, that means that bottom angle there has to be a right angle. And what we're going to do is we're going to use Pythagoras Theory. If it is a right angle, 84 squared plus 187 squared should be equal to 205 squared. If the numbers are different, it's not a right angle. If they are the same, then Mr. Park has done it right, and it is a right angle. So let's start off with our formula. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. A is 84 squared plus 187 squared is equal to 205 squared. We put that into a calculator. 42,025 is equal to 42,025. And this is what we're looking for. The numbers are the same, which tells us that base angle will be a right angle and that Mr. Park constructed the door properly. So if you did the numbers I gave you, or you should have gotten achieved, if you then went the extra step and explained it and linked it to the context, that is how you got merit. So the way I did this, so as the square of AC, so just a note, AC is that long side. Oh gosh, sorry, the long side, the diagonal I meant, is equal to to the square of AB and BC, we can confirm that angle ABC is a right angle. This suggests, so now we're linking it back to Mr. Park. So what does this tell us, or what does this tell Mr. Park? This suggests that Mr. Park constructed the door perfectly or correctly. So if you were able to link it back to context, I gave you a merit mark. It didn't have to be as full out as I described it to get that mark, but there we go. So we're now moving on to the cube. This looks like a 3D trig question, and we're trying to find AB, so that's along the side there, and we don't really have much information. We know the bottom bit there, so maybe let's call that C, and along there is what we're looking forward to, and that's that right angle there. The information we do know is we know that AC is 10. We're trying to find out X, and that means we need that BC, that Y value. We don't have that, but we can actually go ahead and figure that out using another triangle. So let's call this corner D. That triangle along the bottom, that's the one we're going to focus on originally. So that's the base of that shape. So let's draw that triangle out separately. So there is B, there is C, and there is D, and there would be my right angle. I know that BD and CD are going to be 10 because it's a cube, which means every side is going to be the exact same. So there is 10 and there is 10, which means we should be able to go ahead and figure out Y from that. So I'm going to use Pythagoras Theory to do this. So A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. A and B are both 10, so 10 squared plus 10 squared is equal to Y squared. Y squared is equal to 200. Y is equal to the square root of 200, which means Y is going to be equal to 14.14 centimeters, and I rounded that to 2 decimal points. Now that I've got that Y value along the bottom, I can extrapolate that. Let's draw the big triangle across the middle. There is B. There is A on the top, and there's C down the bottom. I know the bottom is 14.14 now. I know that's my right angle, and I know that's 10. That means I've got enough information to go ahead and calculate X, or how long length AB is. So let's write down our formula. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. So we've got 14.14 squared plus 10 squared is equal to X squared. Just a reminder about this 14.14. That there is equal to 200 because it was the square root of 200. So 200 plus 100 is equal to X squared. X squared is equal to 300. Let's finish off our working over here. X will be equal to the square root of 300. X is equal to 17.23 centimeters, and I rounded that to 2 decimal points. So well done if you got that. If you got me Y, you would have been awarded an achieved mark. If you got me the final value at the end, that was worth a merit. So we're moving on. This is the last merit question. And this one, a lot of people did overcomplicate, but the simple trick was to chop my triangle into 2, and that creates 2 right angles. I'm then going to call that D. So I'm first going to calculate how tall this is down the middle, and then I'm going to use that to find out how long AC is, and that was what the question has asked us. It's also given us the guidance of trigonometry, but we can probably figure that out because we've been given angles, which normally means we're using trigonometry. Let's focus on the first triangle. So that there is A up the top, that there is D down the bottom, that there is B on the right. There's my right angle. I know my given angle is 42 degrees, and I know the diagonal is 180. I could go ahead and find out the height. So I'm going to use H for height for there. So we label our sides. There's the hypotenuse. There's the opposite. There's the adjacent. don't care about the adjacent, which means we're dealing with sine. So sine angle equals O over H. Sine 42 is equal to H divided by 180. H will be equal to 180 times sine 42, which means H is equal to 120.44. I'm going to write U for units. Oh, actually, I'll write it out full. And then there I was rounded to 2 dp. So that's our first side. Now that we've done this, we know that this height here is 120.44. We can go ahead and use that to calculate this side AC, which I'm going to call X. So we're going to draw that triangle now. So there's that triangle. There's D down the bottom, A up the top, C down there. We call that X. There's my right angle. That's 31 degrees. I know that's 120.44. And I've got enough to use trigonometry to find this. So hypotenuse over here, opposite over here, adjacent over here. I don't care about the adjacent. We're then going to figure out, well, we've got SO again. So by chance, we're using the sine rule. So let's do that. So sine angle equals O over H. Sine 31 is equal to 120.44 divided by X. X will be equal to 120.44 divided by sine 31. X will be equal to 233.9 units. And that there was a 1 dp rounding. If you got me the first part by itself, you got achieved. If you went all the way to the end, you got a merit. So that was 4 merit questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, there's the fourth. If you got 2 of the 4, so that's half, that was enough to get merit. If you got 3, I think that gave you the high merit. So well done if you got into high merit. And we're now left off with the lucky last 2, the 2 dreaded excellence questions. Let's get into them, I suppose. So this is a square-based pyramid, and we've been told to find the height. So height, square-based pyramid. So the height would be from the top down to the middle. So I'm just going to call that M. And let's maybe connect that up with another corner. So that there would be our right angle. And AMB would be the right angle triangle that we're looking at. So we're trying to find the height up here. We know the slant along the side here, that's 20. But the issue is we've got no idea what AM is. So our first step is we need to find another triangle to find out AM. We can then find out the height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the base of the triangle, this part here. I'm going to use that to find out AM. So I'm going to call this corner C, and then I'm going to use that to go ahead. So let's draw my triangle. There's my triangle. The corner here is the right angle. And here is A, here is M, here is C. And the only thing I know is AC, because it's a square base, AC is also going to be 10 centimeters. But I know this and this are going to be the same because they're the same distance away from the middle. So Pythagoras Theory, I suppose. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And x squared plus x squared equals 10 squared. 2x squared equals 100. X squared equals 50. X is equal to the square root of 50, which is equal to 7.07 centimeters. If you got that for me, you were given an achieved mark. If you're able to extend this all the way through to the end, that's how you got to an excellence. So now that we know AM, so that there is length AM, we can now go ahead and calculate how high it is. So there's the triangle. So there's corner A, here's corner M, here's B. There's the right angle, there's the height. We know the slanted is 20, and we know the bottom is 7.07. So Pythagoras' theory again. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. 7.07 squared plus H squared is equal to 20 squared. Just a reminder, 20 is the long side, so that goes over there by itself. H squared is equal to 20 squared. We then go ahead, that there is 50 plus h squared is equal to 400. H squared is equal to 350. Let's carry on over here. H is equal to the square root of 350. H is equal to 18.71 centimeters. And I've rounded that to 2 decimal points. If you're able to get all the way to the end, you got achieved. So well done on that. Fairly tricky question, very difficult to visualize all those triangles from that 3D shape, but well done if you did. And the last question, you thought that one was tricky, this is just a headache. Here's my messy algebra question. First step, we have an angle, so it probably means we're going to be using trigonometry. So we'll label the sides hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. Not interested in the hypotenuse. So OA is tan. So tan angle equals O over A. We then substitute. Tan 26 was equal to x over 2x plus 2. And from here, it's just solving. So we've formed an equation. If your teacher thought you did pretty good, they might have given you an achieved mark here if you made some silly mistakes along the way, but not guaranteed. We now have to go through and solve. So this part here is division. We move it to the other side as multiplication. So 2x plus 2 times tan 26 is equal to x. The x here is now locked away in a bracket, so it probably means you're going to have to expand to get that out. 2x times tan 26 plus 2 tan 26 is equal to x. We've now got x's on both sides, so we're going to move them to the same side. So it's currently positive over here. I'm going to move it to the side as negative. So 2 tan 26 is going to be equal to x minus 2x times tan 26. These have an x in common, so I'm going to factorize, and that's what's going to group the x together in this question. 2 tan 26 is equal to x 1 minus 2 tan 26. I'm then going to move that over as division. 2 tan 26 divided by 1 minus 2 tan 26. And when I do all of this, that is telling me x is equal to 39.76 units. And that there was rounded to 2 dp. So the question hasn't asked me about x, it's asked me about the opposite and the adjacent. Just to clarify, I'm just going to write opposite over here because that was what the x was equal to. I'm now going to find the adjacent, which is 2x plus 2. So there's going to be 39.76 times 2 plus 2. And when I do all of that, that's 81.56 units. Don't know how long those units are. 2 dp. If you are able to find me one of the two, that's how you got a merit, most likely, depending on your teacher. And then if you found both of them, you would have got an overall excellence. So well done on that. To get excellence overall, you needed to get half you achieved, half your merit. And if you got one of these two excellence questions, you got an excellence overall. So well done. From what I hear, it was a really well done test across the classes. So great work. That was our recap on the trigonometry and Pythagoras Theory test. Hopefully you found the video useful. If you got any questions wrong, it is important. Make sure you update it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Now let's practice and revise a bit more.